Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Game 4 here in this third and fourth place matchup between HasuObs and Kas. I'm DJ Wheat. Joining me is Husky. And guys, don't forget that, I'm serious, okay? I know you procrastinated for a long time. It's time to stop now. Go sign up for the raffle, teamliquid.net/raffle. And a box just fell on Mini Wheat's head, and it was pretty funny. Mini Wheat, don't try to put that back up there. Take it, Husky. 1 sec.
All right, go ahead and take care of business at home. So here are the spawn locations. Empire.Kas spawning up in the top center side, and on the center left side is going to be HasuObs. And we are talking a little bit about the spawn locations on this map. I just want to take a quick look for our Terran player. When he starts to expand to his natural and to his third base, he is actually expanding closer to his opponent, and that allows, if you look at the gas behind the Protoss player's base, you can almost blink stalkers over there. It's so close. Such a small drop distance that can really be utilized by Protoss. And one thing that we mentioned is that the Terran player, if these positions were swapped, Empire.Kas could just, we've seen the multitasking so far of Kas. He could just basically abuse that with all the medevacs. So we'll see if that comes into play here, but the spawn location is going to be favoring the Protoss just slightly. And one last thing about the map I want to mention is that that's what I love about the GSL maps is it can completely change your build just based on where you spawn. It can completely play a huge role in how the game develops the further and further it goes on. So that is why in tournaments you will see big maps like this. Of course, you will see smaller maps as well, like Xel'Naga Caverns, because it forces players not to just know one build, but to know multiple depending on where you spawn. So, DJ Wheat, are you back? Were you able to
I'm sorry about
Mini
that.
Wheat?
Literally, Mini Wheat was getting excited by his computer, and a box fell on his head. It wasn't.
Nice.
Was a light box, He was a little upset about it. Maybe more embarrassed than anything, Husky. But we've taken care of the issue here now. So, based off of what you're saying about these positions, I think that probably HasuObs would rather have these. He still can get some medevacs into his main with a lot of area, and it just means he's going to have to make sure that he puts down those spotting pylons so that he always has vision and is paying attention to that sort of thing. We got a second gateway going down just before the cybernetics core finishes up. The one thing about HasuObs' scouting is, unfortunately, he went all the way around, and after checking that second base there, he's like, okay, now I know where my opponent is. And upset that he didn't go counterclockwise first.
Yeah, and that does play a huge role because he's not going to see this tech lab that is currently producing a Marauder also producing that Marauder slow. So it looks like, once again, Empire.Kas going to be putting on a little pressure here, so we're going to have to keep an eye on exactly what units he decides to produce here. Looking at the units tab, he did skip a Zealot, so he's just going to be working on getting out those Stalkers. Wouldn't be surprised to see additional Stalkers being created as well. And I'm not sure if the probe was able to see that Marauder, as he did get intercepted quite early by that Marine. But, it's going to be, once again, up to HasuObs. Can he react accordingly? Basically, since the Warp Gate technology is nerfed, it can be more difficult to hold off.
And we do have this first little push coming out with the second racks finishing behind it. Now, we're going to see SCV and Marine try to get out of there. He may just bait this Stalker, and if the Marauders can get a hit on this Stalker, which it doesn't look like it, Stalker will be very wise to what is going on and will try to head back there. And now we'll turn around, harass that SCV a little bit. It almost does go down. But with the second Stalker out and the third one right behind it, he should be in a lot better shape than he was, even in Game 1 and 2 when this happened.
Especially since he has the high ground advantage here, he would have got the first volley of shots, which, if focused correctly on the Marauders, one thing to remember is that Marauders do take additional damage from Stalkers, so if you can get the first couple of shots, it does play a huge role. And now he's even positioning his units in a very defensive spot. Also has his pylon going down at the expansion. But look at that, during that, Empire.Kas only rallied a couple units down there, and also has his command center on the way. That is one extremely powerful thing about this 2-racks build, is if your opponent messes up, say HasuObs lost that first Stalker, then you can literally lose the game right then. But if you cut a couple of units and you can't bust up your opponent's ramp right away, then that's okay, you just follow it up with the command center. So it's a very solid build to go against a Protoss, especially on a large map like this.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of options there as far as that's concerned. You can stop a lot early on. You can be aggressive early on if it needs to be. And so he'll just continue to bust out these bio units now. We do have the engineering bay finishing up now for Kas, which makes this a little bit more like some of those early, early tech patterns that we saw him go with earlier, getting that stim, getting those initial upgrades. There we see +1 weapons going, and stim is nearly completed now with more Marines and Marauders on the way. Now let's switch focus here real quick. HasuObs has nearly every single game gone for some form of Colossus, sometimes mixing that with the Templar tech as well. And as we have some probes starting to move over there as that freshly finished Nexus is up. We do have the Observer coming out. I expect to see the Robotics Bay going up shortly.
Yeah, and one thing I realized about Kaz's play so far is, if I remember correctly, not a single factory unit has been produced at all. He really likes, or it seems to be, he really likes the being able just to keep his Marines and Marauders together and then multitasking with those medevacs. That just seems to be his style of play for this series and the build orders that he has been practicing. And you can see him moving out here a little bit. He has to be super careful here, because if he gets force fielded, it could be lights out for this attack. So I'm not quite sure exactly what he plans to do with this. So he is going to be moving in right now. And are the force fields going to go down, trapping these units? He did force a Guardian Shield, which, I mean, that's a slight victory in itself. But it looks like both players here, that was a very tense moment there for just a second, as either player could have lost a lot if their positioning was not very good.
Yeah, I think that he was just kind of wanting to poke, maybe baiting a few force fields out, seeing what sort of army he could see. Was there a Colossus there yet? He saw, okay, no, not yet. And we're going to have a Twilight Council and a Forge go down, which I do like, because this is going to basically deviate away from some of the other things that he's been going for in the last few games, and this could certainly turn out to be interesting, something that he needs to combat versus Kas. Kas right now just continuing to get those bio upgrades, and with Combat Shield on the way for his Marines and continuing to spit out these units, he's going to now start +1 armor. So with the Forge just now finishing up here for HasuObs, what direction is he going to take there? We do have Blink on the way with armor coming up first for HasuObs.
Now, HasuObs also has that pylon in the center of the map. He's being really active with his scouting probe as well in the top right side, and also taking his third before his opponent is able to get his third set up. So he is going to have a slight macro advantage going forward, which I think is really smart on this map. Here comes a drop, by the way, on kind of the center left side, so definitely want to make sure to keep an eye on that, see if he can cause any damage. But I think this is a really smart play based for HasuObs here, taking that expansion, and is he going to get it? It looks like the medevac is going to get sniped with the last shot there. Full of Marauders there. That's the kind of early momentum that HasuObs has been waiting for and praying for every single game, and I think that that's really going to energize him moving forward, because the games have been so close, that's the kind of stuff he's needed each and every game just to take the victory.
Yeah, I mean, that was perfect. It's every single game. It seems like he's been getting better and better with dealing with those, and HasuObs was certainly on top of that one there. So we have a Templar Archives going down, another Gateway, so Blink is finishing up. We'll have Armor finishing up very, very soon. Still a very healthy bio army right now, and I liked what you pointed out about the fact that we've seen basically no factory units. We do have another engineering bay going down for those double upgrades, and an additional barracks with the tech lab for those Marauders. Looks like the Stalker's going to try to get rid of that scouting factory. The scouting factory did get vision of that third base, so he's very, very well aware that his opponent and him are pretty much on the same terms as far as the economic game goes.
And Psystorm is going to be on the way right now, and I really, really like this from HasuObs. I think that one of the things we've seen Protoss players do a lot is just completely skip getting Colossus and worry more about gateway units. If you can stay on top of your upgrades, get those armor upgrades out early, then your army is surprisingly effective. There is going to be a drop inside the main base. Blink is now completed, but will not be able to snipe that medevac, just barely escaping. One volley of shots is not going to be enough to take that down. But again, HasuObs able to hold off this harassment. Looking at the workers killed, only 2 workers have gone down for HasuObs in this game, which is not what we've seen in previous games, where he would lose, 30 or 40. But right now, the Observer getting taken out as well. So HasuObs, I definitely got to say, as far as the game so far, he's been holding off the harassment quite well.
Yeah, the only thing, Husky, I would have loved to seen differently there by Kaz is if he would have attacked that third at the exact same time. For the Protoss to defend the main, the natural, and the third here on this map is very, very difficult. It could take a long time for them to make it all the way across there. So if he had distracted him a lot here in the main and then attacked with another medevac on the bottom, he could really, really maximize that drop potential. However, right now he's just building up this army. We've got a ton of Vikings out. There are 8 now to the count. But his medevac count is pretty low considering that he's been focusing on his Vikings. There we have a second one out. However, that second one could prompt a little push here as it looks like Kaz is going to leave the comfort of his base and start heading out to the treacherous world that he
Now,
lives
this
in.
is a very interesting situation here, Wheat, because there's a lot of Vikings going up against 14 Warp Gates and a total whopping of 0 Colossus. And with that +1 armor done, +2 almost done, +1 attack on the way, as well as the Zealot legs. I mean, if right now, if Empire.Kas does not find a time to attack, he's going to be hurting. He's even getting that ship weapons level 1. These Vikings are going to be forced to land, which, not saying Vikings are worthless on the ground, but they are an armored unit. They take additional damage from those stalkers, and they can get basically destroyed right away. There's also a pylon at the 4th base of Empire.Kas waiting for that to finish so we can just warp in some Zealots there. I got to say, I really like this from HasuObs, spicing up his play. You can see the scan outside of HasuObs' base is going to show the Terran player, oh, there's no Vikings here. I'm going to have to use these Vikings for something completely different than what I had intended.
Yeah, and he's going to go ahead and move them into the main. He will find that there is a few units that's going to get hit with the storm, and he's also going to go up against the cannon here. Zealots moving forward, and oh, this is a sad day for Terran fans, but we have a drop in that third. That was the split aggression that I'm talking about. However, HasuObs totally ready for it. Will go ahead and give up these units, not focusing on those stalkers at all, going, I want your probes, and he will take out quite a bit before finally finishing up. He takes his army in the front and moves it back, but a pretty large loss there, when you look at it for both players, because we did see all those Vikings go down, cause a lot of hurt units there with not as many medevacs as he would like. But at the same time, that drop in the back was pretty successful there by Kaz, putting him ahead in the harvester count, not by a whole lot, so kind of evening things out. And he's got no medevacs. The ghosts are out now. It looks like the Protoss is moving forward. My God, that's a lot of Zealots.
So many Zealots, and also during that, there's other multitasking going on. One Zealot locking down the expansion, as well as HasuObs losing a lot of his High Templar with a slight misclick there. You can see only 4 High Templar there. 2 of them eat an EMP to the face, so there's only 2 High Templars with enough energy for Storm right now. And so HasuObs losing the vital units that he needs in these battles, because if you have the Zealots, you really need to have Storms and Force Fields to complement them, and he just morphed those 2 High Templar into an Archon, keeping in mind that Archon did get a recent buff, and they count as massive, so they are not slowed by those Marauders, which that is why I'm surprised we haven't seen more. Here comes the bell right here, and EMP hitting every single Zealot, it would seem, and right now HasuObs he has the units he needs, but he keeps losing them at the wrong times and then eating a lot of EMPs here. So this is back and forth, and it looks like we're going to see a huge engagement here. No, HasuObs going to back out here. I'm about to have a heart attack waiting for this battle to commence.
Oh my God, there's the first storm, the second storm in the battle, and while it looked like Kaz had a huge advantage, EMPing all those units, they are so hurt, and just one storm would absolutely devastate this group. But with all those Zealots, he can kind of do some work with them, and well, he's going to decide to move backwards. I think that's a pretty smart move here. You can see that he's got a few more High Templars with energy to throw down those storms, and there are a lot of limping bio units there for the Terran. Here comes some more fresh Marauders, but they're not going to fight from the front and the back. Here comes a big battle that could decide it all.
And no storms being used. There was a couple of feedbacks on the medevacs. There's the storms down. These units are completely trapped up against the wall, but amazing micro by Kaz, able to save those units for just a second longer. He will end up losing this army, though, and this is what I'm talking about, is you need to spice up your play. Maybe not get those Colossus so early. Got to even blink down here to take out the remainder of the medevacs. Gateway units have never looked so scary. However, he is slightly down in upgrades, and pretty soon he's going to be even more behind, going against a 3-3 Terran bio army, which you've seen how that goes, and now attacking the planetary fortress with Zealots, which is never a comfortable situation. May be able to focus it down, though. No, he is going to back out. No decides to attack it, and really he's just trying to decide, where can I attack to cause the most damage? The SCV is repairing this like crazy. Going to lose a lot of Zealots there to that splash damage, so He has a nice army right now. He just needs to be careful not to lose it.
Yeah, I could get why he decided to do that, but I think the hesitation on those attacks really, really hurt HasuObs there. He didn't lose a ton of units, but I think he could have attacked from a better angle or maybe even gone into the main there because there wasn't a lot of reinforcements. However, we have Kas loading up with a big old force and heading into the main. He could potentially do a lot of damage here as the pylon is going to go down. The Protoss is trying to get back into position, and there are a few Zealots here and a High Templar. He will drop a Storm, but they're not going to care about it too much. They're just going to try to maximize the damage that they can do here. All the units in the back will get taken out, and a nice little choke here against these Zealots as Kas actually will benefit from this quite a bit. He's going to try to get out there, but he's got to watch out for that blink. The medevac that doesn't have anything gets focused down, and wow, he gets pretty lucky in that drop.
Barely escapes with 16 HP, and look at the right side of the map. During that, Empire.Kas has been trying to land this command center, but HasuObs has locked down every expansion on the right side, just chilling a couple Zealots, a couple pylons there, because why not? Forcing Kas at the drop just to expand over there, so he is delaying the expansions as long as possible. Kas, I cannot believe it, is making a Hellion down in the bottom center. All the factory fans out there should be cheering right now. I doubt the Hellion will do too much damage, but he does know, he realized that, wow, this building is not just for getting out medevacs, but also you can create some units inside the factory. But this army looking pretty scary right now, Wheat, for both players. Both players quickly getting maxed out.
I love that use of the factory, man. It's a scouting tool. You get the Hellion out, and he'll be able to scout that expansion. He has a better idea. And anytime you have that information, you're going to just be able to play better as well. He might also get some units to split off from the main army to go down there. So we'll see if we're going to have any more coming out of there. But right now, it was just a one Hellion factory. So it's one of those disposable pocket factories, I guess. And in comes the Bio Army from Kas, moving down yet again. Now, note where the Protoss army is in relation to the Terran army. There is going to be a scan, and that may give away for HasuObs the position of Kas. But Kas is actually going to be attacking with his back to the Protoss base. Is he going to move in here and do some damage? I think he might.
Running in with the Ghost, sniping one High Templar there, so this is going to be, I think, a huge deciding battle. There is still an Archon in this army, and it does look like the Nexus is going to get taken out as well, and this army is just running down here. We'll take out the expansion down here, but there are not, well, there's more medevacs than I expected. It looks like HasuObs backing out here, decides maybe he's just going to counterattack and try and go for a base race. I really don't know what's going to happen, as these Marauders right now, we completely wrecking havoc in the Protoss main.
Oh my gosh, it's like that third base never even existed. And yes, HasuObs says, hey, I've got no choice here. I've got to go do some serious damage. He is going to meet up with a few Marauders and a Marine, and they're going to actually try to hightail it out of here. But what is this Terran force going to do? Oh, hits the medevacs and the Vikings in the back with the Storm. And now just moving forward, will the Terran decide to go and engage or possibly go and take out this third too? He is moving off in that way. Needs to get some EMPs down to, oh my God, feedback too. The Ghosts go down. No, only one more EMP remaining. He will get those High Templars. Not all the energy is gone, but he's handling these Zealots nicely. Storms will go down. Right now, remember that the Terran is fighting with the Protoss army and base to his back, so he's not going to have reinforcements here in this battle, but he has done a lot. Finally, a Colossus does come out of there, but still with High Templar back, they will just chew through this Marauder army, and some good equalization there. The Zealots will come in and clean up.
Oh.
Now, what does HasuObs do from this point? He has one base up, a second base up, but he did lose several gateways and his natural in his third.
And during that, the multitasking so crazy. Look at the top right side expansion.
Oh, yeah.
All these Stalkers have a lot of kills, locking that down. And now all of a sudden, the HasuObs is in a surprising shape. He was way behind in the supply, is finally going to engage his planetary fortress. Can he take it out once and for all? And Archon is still alive with 14 kills, doing as much damage as possible. Finally gets taken out. Force field preventing the repair on the planetary fortress, which means he is going to kill it and back out of there. Great use of force fields preventing that, storming the remainder of this army. Right now, HasuObs is trying to rally as many units as he can, but supply count still 147 to 160. He's getting out as many units as he can and could intercept some of the workers. If you look at the center right side, all of those workers are very vulnerable to those units. Should he move them down, which is exactly what he's going to do, try to engage and kill as many SCVs as he possibly can. The workers lost tab shows 23 killed for Protoss, 37 killed for the Terran, so a slugfest back and forth. And here comes another battle over here at the main base of the Terran. The splash damage is going to be out of control as he finally does have 3 Colossus now. This is a very epic battle, but it seems like there may just be too many fully upgraded Marauders, although they are directly running into those storms. This game, I swear I'm going to have yet another heart attack as the action is just nonstop, but HasuObs is indeed going to lose that battle.
Yeah, he does lose it and pretty badly. However, here is one of the big differences is right now, if you look at the income tab, it is much, much more in favor of the Protoss. And despite the fact that he did do a lot of damage there, in you know, taking out that natural and that third from Kas, right now Protoss had the advantage. It looks like Terran is going to begin to equalize it just a little bit as he has 2 more Colossus pop out, more High Templar on the way, and Zealots are becoming the flavor of the week here for HasuObs now, as you know, he's kind of got to restrict himself on how he can spend his money, so that works out pretty well for him. Another nice force out here from Kas, and he needs to get these other bases going, but having this one Zealot just beat away at these SCVs, finally he's going to see that Stalker go down as well. So will he decide to attack, or will he decide to save that expansion?
Yeah, and that Zealot raking in 6 kills on those workers before finally getting taken out. And it looks like a lot of the gateways down here completely vulnerable. Is going to go for the pylon, unpowering 3 of those gateways. And that's not a huge deal, though, as he can remake that pylon quite easily. Going to be blinking down here to take this out. So even if Kaz is able to kill the pylon, I don't know if it's going to be worth it. Trying to focus down the Nexus, but he will be taking a lot of damage during this amazing control by HasuObs. There are so many Zealots here. It's like a football team chasing around just a couple of these Marauders. There is going to be some reinforcing units in the middle trying to engage this expansion. Could do a lot of damage as HasuObs is now completely out of position, but he is going to snipe the medevacs that are trying to retreat as well. Both players taking so much damage here. Kaz, once again, though, looks like he will be able to snipe this expansion as long as he uses stim on those Marauders. And there he goes, just utilizing that right the last second. Will take it out. And the income tab is now starting to favor the Terran. So this is a really back and forth game we've seen so far, Wheat.
Yes, the Nexus killer, Empire.Kas, as he goes to work on another one in the southeast of the map. He does manage to get the shields down. But here's kind of the oh my god, there are so many Zealots there, I can't even believe it. The scary part about this is that Kas is kind of in this situation where if he kills all these Nexus and his opponent's like, well shoot, I can't mine anymore, I've got to go in and attack, I'm not sure that Kaz could handle this army right now. In fact, this could be the push, the march across the map that could be the death of Kas here. You know, he is ahead in the upgrades right now. But you know, still, the Protoss army is really impressive. And here we go.
And the SCVs are going to join this battle. Stim has been used. This is going to be the game-deciding battle, I feel, as the Storms are killing so many of the workers, allowing the Zealots to run directly into this army. Kaz is microing like he's never microed before, trying to hold off a superior Protoss army for as long as he can, eating another Storm to the face, but I think the splash damage is going to be a little too much from the Storms. Can HasuObs reinforce this with enough units, or will Kaz be able to reproduce here? He still has a lot of units on the way, but HasuObs is just barely going to take out this army. If he can get these Archons up and running, you got to remember that they are not affected by that Marauder slow, and this is such a close battle here as reinforcements could do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, 3 ghosts arriving, which those are going to get taken out quite easily. Empire.Kas apparently saying a bunch of periods, and then GG, an extremely close game here. 100 supply at the very end to that 53. We are all now tied up, folks. So I'm curious to see how the polls are going to show who players think will win. I feel like HasuObs has finally hit his stride where he's holding off the harassment and taking damage from the harassment when it's kind of okay, when he's already ahead, when his army's in a good position to just counterattack during that. And he has been really on his game this entire time. 223 APM during that entire game, just showing you his multitasking has definitely stepped up.
Yeah, there was some just super, super awesome things that happened there. And you know what? I've been in those games before, Husky. I've been in those games where you're sitting there and you feel like you're doing so much damage to your opponent, but then they just march in and take you out. And like all your efforts are splitting your army and you're putting a lot of attention here. And, you know, they're just like, well, you did take me out and I'm not going to be able to continue making units, but I have a big enough army that I'm going to attack you and I'm going to kill you. So I really feel like Hasu handled all of those situations that Kaz threw at him very, very well, very calmly and collected. And ultimately, you know, he didn't lose as many units as Kaz did. Kaz threw away a lot of units in that game in order to try to get him an advantage, when in actuality it was kind of putting him behind.
Yeah, and so we are going to be moving on here, and that means we are guaranteed 2 more games, Wheat. And just because both players are at 2-2, it is going to be a best of 7, which is pretty exciting if you want epic games, which so far we have only seen epic games, and neither game has really been a complete slaughter. I think probably the most one-sided game was the first game, which is surprising because that was a 37-minute game. But after that, HasuObs, I mean, in the next game, he was just getting closer and closer to winning. And then these last 2 games, he did exactly what he needed to. And that shows you how important the early game can be, where the games where HasuObs did not take any damage or was able to just do a little bit of damage to that harassment in the early parts are the games he ended up winning. So I think moving on, those are going to be exactly what we're looking for. So we are going on to game number 5, which is going to be on Shakura's Plateau, another map that has a very high potential for macro style games. So that is where we're going to be at, and I'm curious to see, Wheat. Are we going to continue seeing macro games? We have yet to see a game that's been in the single digits as far as minutes go, and that for me, that in my little nerd self, is extremely excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, guys, when you put two players against each other, you think about that race matchup. You're like, okay, it's a TVP and all the different styles that can come with that. But I think that we're just dealing with 2 particular styles where, those are the types of games that we're going to see produced. You're absolutely right. I think the average length so far has been somewhere, if I had to guess, around 25, 30 minutes of the matches that we've seen. The one on Crossfire a little bit shorter, I think, but overall some pretty long games, and I think that just has a lot to do with the styles, how these guys like to play. Now, Kas has opened up a few times in a way where it's like, well, I could throw some aggression at you. Remember, he had that contain on Zelnaga that didn't really work out too well for him. I kind of think we're going to see the pattern continue here with longer games.
Yeah, and it's important to remind everyone, this is just the 3rd and 4th place match. If you guys think this is epic, then you'll want to watch the live finals tomorrow on Sunday. That is going to be with Day9, and is that Chill? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, with Day9 and Chill. I don't know if I'm going to be tuning in. I may have to steal internet from my new neighbors, so that'll be my housewarming gift to myself, as I will no longer be in this apartment. So don't miss that out, guys, or don't miss out on that, guys. And also, the last time I checked the numbers, we're at something like 30,000 viewers, and this is just for a 3rd, 4th place match. So I can only imagine how epic the finals are going to be. Do not miss that. Mark it off on your calendar if you haven't already. I don't care what you got to do. Definitely do not miss that. And these games, though, we're a little over halfway through the games. There's no way we've been through 4 games, so obviously there can't be 8. But definitely tell your friends and all that to tune in, as the games have been awesome. And this is why you cannot go out and hang with them and play basketball, because you are being a total nerd, watching StarCraft, and being a total baller.
Exactly. And you know what? It's kind of cold here today, Husky, so it's like a perfect day to just be inside and play video games. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And hopefully you guys do too. Guys, I do see HasuObs is ahead on the poll right now, as we got another 730 going over to his side. Well, many of the Kas favorites are sticking with him. And even though we do see it tied now, it could go either way. In a couple of games, we could split again and take it to the 7th game. Anything could happen, but we're going to find out soon as we get started with game number 5 here of the TSL3 3rd and 4th place match. Don't go away. We'll be right back.